morning, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes, today we are going to be having economics. As you all know, economics is a social science subject. And when we are talking about social science subjects, it's not only talking about pure sciences, it's talking about how we interact with each other. That's why they use the word social. Now, there are different definitions from different authors. According to Adam Smith said that economics can be defined as a wealth of all nations. Why did he say that? Why? There must be a reason. He has actually done some research and find out that the best way to define economics for your own understanding is to tell you that economics is a wealth of all nations. What is the wealth of the nations? The buying and the selling, the exchange of goods and services, the transference of currency or money from one person to the other, the satisfaction derived after purchasing a goods, the dissatisfaction you derive, the need that you have for a particular product. Today we'll be looking at the definition and basic concepts of economics. Economics as a subject has many definitions. Economics as a social science, economics as a social science, are you writing? Therefore, can be defined in various ways depending on the aspect of the subject. Can be defined in various ways depending on the aspect of the subject that interests the economists. Defining that interests the economists, defining at that particular time. Why not?
Dust on my shoes, dry as the moon. The ground cracks like it's breathing. A thirst in my bones, whispering doom. The air is heavy.
Now, if you look at this particular topic today, there are some people we call economists. These economics, they have done different types of researches about economics, and they have arrived at these answers. Now, economics, as we all know, is a social science subject. It's not a pure science. It's not an applied science. It's a social science. And when we are talking about social science, it has to do with what? Behavioral communication between one person and the other. Now, according to what we have on the board, economics has been defined differently by various authorities of the subject. Now, let's look at a particular author called Adam Smith. Adam Smith defined economics as what? Wealth of all nations. And ever he has done that, his own definition was the first definition, and that is why he was regarded as the father of economics. You know, in computer, we have father of computer. We have mother of computer. In economics, we also have father of economics. Adam Smith is regarded as the father of economics because he was the first to do a research and discover that economics can be defined as the wealth of nations. In his book, he wrote a book which he called Wealth of Nations, and that was regarded as a definition of economics. Now, in that book, he said something, that economics is an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations. Into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations. That is according to Adam Smith. Better listen. Now, there's another author after that, because while he gave that, there are some issues that came up after that, and they had to, do some findings to refine the definition to give us a better one. So there was a man He is an author and also an economist called Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall defined economics as a study of mankind in the ordinary business life. Another author called John Stuart Mill is also an economist. He defined economics as the practical science of production and distribution of wealth. There's also another author called A.C. Pigou. This economics defined economics as a science of material welfare. There's also another author is also an economist called Davenport. Davenport defined economics as how such goods and services should be exchanged. That is a phenomenon. Exchanging goods, but on a standpoint of price. I cannot exchange goods with you without a price. And that price will determine the value of that goods. That is what he's saying. Now, the most accepted definition so far is according to Professor Lord Lionel Robin. This is the most accepted definition. He defined economics as the science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. This is the most accepted definition. So if I ask you in your exam, in a test, anytime I ask you what is economics, I don't expect you to tell me what these other authors have said. I expect you to give me the definition of Professor Lord Lionel Robin. He said economics can be defined as a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between what? Ends and scarce means that have alternative uses. So I'll be pointing out each of these and explaining them one after the other. What do I mean by a science? What do I mean by the human behavior? What do I mean by the relationship between ends? This one has a meaning in economics. Scarce means has a meaning. Alternative uses has a meaning. That is when we go into the scope of economics. So today I'm going to give you a short note to give you the scope of economics. The basic scope of economics includes the wants, the ends, the needs, the scarcity, the alternative uses, which has to do with what? Opportunity cost and all that, the foregone alternative, and so on and so forth. So subheading, scope of economics. I'm going to take this one. Scope of economics. We are still going to be looking at an issue that has been a very crucial debate back in the days when these economics were debating if economics is a science subject or a social science subject. Which one is it? But regardless of whether it is a social science or a science subject, it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that economics is a general subject that all field they must adopt. Any course you are doing, you must have a big foundation in economics. It's very important for you. Economics studies human behavior in relations. Economics studies human behavior in relation to wants and means of attainment. Economics studies human behavior in relations to wants and means of attainment. Economics studies human behavior to wants and means of attainment. Economics is broadly divided into two, namely microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of individual markets, particularly what is happening at the level of the individual consumer, particularly what is happening at the level of the individual consumer, comma, small group of people or firm. While macroeconomics, on the other hand, relates to the economy of the country as a whole, while macroeconomics relates to the economy of the country as a whole. So I will stop here for now. We will be going into we're going deeper into the scope of economics in our next class, when we'll be talking about or debating if economics is a science subject or social science subject. That will be in our next class, and then we'll be going into the basic concepts of economics, which has to do with scarcity, wants, needs, opportunity cost, alternative foregone, scale of preference, and the rest of it. All right, I'll see you in my next class. Have a nice day. Bye.